Glenda Bonin here with a story I call Spiders. Mary Margaret wasn't afraid of anything. Mary Margaret was tough, and she liked it that way. For being 12 years old, that was quite a reputation. Why, she could face down the meanest dogs in town and send them packing. She loved to collect live mice to feed to the snakes that she kept in her room. And, well, once on a dare, she ate a worm. She was fearless. She wasn't afraid of anything except spiders. Now, not too many people knew of her fear of spiders, but Benjamin, her 10-year-old brother, did. And with that information, he set about to make her miserable. When she found a furry black spider in her bed, why, she couldn't sleep in her room for a week. Her parents tried to convince her that her room was spider-free, but every so often she would find one lurking somewhere in her room. And there was the time when she opened her bag, her lunch bag at school, and she found a big black shiny spider sitting right on top of her ham sandwich. She refused to take her lunch to school after that. Now, it took her a while to figure out that it was her brother who was tormenting her. She found him in the yard holding a cigar box behind his back. When she forced him to give it to her, a whole bunch of spiders fell out and fell on the ground and all over her feet. She screamed so loud that the dogs in the neighborhood began to howl. But after that, she kept a real close eye on that brother of hers. Now, Benjamin liked to collect spiders. He had different places all around where he could find some pretty cool spiders, but his favorite place was where the sticky spider webs were in the tall grass right underneath the rain spout that came off the roof. Yeah, but sometimes he had more spiders than he knew what to do with. So he'd take his cigar box, go into the nearby woods to a clearing where there was a big flat rock, and there, one at a time, he would place the spider and crush it with a smooth, round stone. It seemed that he liked doing that. Well, his sister noticed that Benjamin spent a lot of time in the woods with his cigar box, so she followed him one day. As she watched from behind a tree, she saw that he placed one spider after another and dispatched them, and it seemed to make him happy. She watched a little bit longer, and then she began to think, I'm not afraid of anything except spiders. This might be a chance for me to take care of that. So she got her courage together and walked up to that rock and her brother and said, "Give me that killing stone." Her brother smiled and handed her the stone. When he placed the round stone in her hand, it began to shake and she started to sweat a little bit. Then her brother placed a green spotted spider on top of that flat rock and nodded his head as if to say, "I dare you." Mary Margaret turned her hand and pressed down on that green spider until all that was left was a sticky, gooey mess. She felt kind of weak, but at the same time, she felt relief because now she wasn't afraid of anything, not even spiders. Well, from that time on, he didn't try to tease his sister or scare her. No, he taught her the ropes, took her to all the places where he could find some cool spiders, and then he showed her his favorite place under the rain spout where the tall grass was. So they spent weekends and summers, year after year, collecting spiders and taking them to the woods in that flat rock. And year after year, there seemed to be more spiders and more webs than there ever were before. Well, time went on, and eventually They both had special gloves to protect themselves from the occasional spider bite. Mary Margaret always was on the lookout for spiders that managed to get in the house. And if she found one, she'd put on her glove, reach down, pick up that spider, and hold it, kind of like a big fat grape. And she would press down on that spider as it wiggled and squirmed. And as she applied more pressure, it eventually popped, and the guts came out. Well, about that time, she married Hank, the boy who lived next door in the next farm. And as soon as she went over there to live with him, she had him fix the rain gutters and reattach the rain spout. And of course, Benjamin found himself a job in the city a little ways away and went there to live. But occasionally he would come to the country and visit. And when he did, they always welcomed him. Now, Hank didn't know anything about Mary Margaret and Benjamin and spiders, but he did know that his bride wasn't afraid of anything, and he loved her dearly for that. So Mary Margaret and Benjamin would go often out into the woods. Well, one weekend when Benjamin was visiting, Hank had to go into the city for supplies. His truck was hardly out of sight when Mary Margaret and Benjamin got all their things together, their cigar box and their round stones and their gloves, and then they went searching for spiders. It was interesting because when they got to the favorite place where the rain spout came down with the tall grass around and all the spiders, it was like a bonanza. They found all kinds of spiders, but there were thick, thick spider webs, more than any that they had ever seen or encountered. They filled up their cigar boxes really quickly. When they were on their way to the woods, they had to brush all the spider webs out of their hair and their clothes. They laughed as they went into the woods. They had a wonderful day. As the sun was going down, they came back, both grinning from ear to ear with satisfaction. Before Benjamin and Mary Margaret retired for the night, they decided that they would have a contest the next morning, get up really early and find out who could get the biggest and craziest spider of all. Well, it was about noon the next day, when Hank finally got home, and as he entered in his truck the path that led onto their little house, he looked ahead and saw that his little blue cottage looked kind of gray in the noonday sun, and there was a stillness about it. As he got a little closer, it looked to him like the house was covered with something. So he reached his hand up and washed the windshield, or wiped it anyway, to see if it was fogged up or something. No change, so he continued to drive. He got in front of the house and stepped out of the cab onto the ground that was teeming with spiders. There were spiders everywhere, all over his feet. He said, "Mary Margaret, where are you?" When he looked up, he saw that his house was indeed covered with spider webs. "Mary Margaret, Benjamin, where are you?" Not a sound except scurrying spiders, thousands of them. He raced to the house. There he found the front door. It was covered with a huge film of spider webs. The door was slightly ajar, so he scraped his way in, and then he pushed the door open. What he saw was a frightening sight. There were spiders everywhere, but worst of all, every item in the room was encased in spider webs. "Mary Margaret, Benjamin, are you in there?" He pushed all the spiders aside with his feet as he tried to get into the house. He tripped over something. When he looked down, he saw it was Benjamin's body covered with webs. At least he thought it was Benjamin. "Mary Margaret, where are you?" He raced to the bedroom. There he found his bride, what was left of her. He completely clawed through the tangle of webs around her until he found her face, what was left of it. Her eyes were wide open, but they did not see. Her face was a mask of unbelievable fright. Her arms were crossed in front of her, her right hand holding a smooth, round stone. You might want to remember Mary Margaret whenever you hear this little ditty. The eensy-weensy spider went up the garden spout. Down came the rain and washed the spider out.